Hi everyone, my name's Daly. I'm head of data analytics and AI at TechUK, the trade association for the UK tech sector. And it's my honor to be here today at this wonderful event that we are proud to be supporting, but also to be here to have a bit of a conversation with Kriti Sharma, the Vice President of AI at Sage. So we're going to have a bit of a conversation for around 20 minutes so you can understand the amazing work that Kriti does. Thank you, Kriti, for being with us today. So Kriti is the Vice President for Artificial Intelligence at Sage, and she was recently named in the Forbes 30 Under 30 for advancements in AI. She was also elected, or she has been a civic leader by President Obama for her work in ethical technology. She's a fellow of the Royal Society of Art, Google Grace Hopper Scholar, and Government of India's Young Leader in Science. So I already feel really, really intimidated. But it's great to have you here, Kriti. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Sue, for having me.
So perhaps we just start off with a simple one. Tell us about your role. What does it involve? What do you focus on at Sage?
Bunch of things, really. The key component is, so Sage, for those of you who don't know, is a software company that builds software for accounting, payments, payroll, so pretty much the most exciting part of running your business. My role there is to advise the team and the executive leadership on AI strategies and a lot of research. In addition to that, I run a key program which is to train young people into technology and particularly AI, those who wouldn't think that a career in AI is for them. I also think AI as an industry is starting to become very elitist, and it's very much a me versus them. And despite everything you just read here about my bio, I'm still a fake AI person because I don't have a PhD, I only have a master's.
I won't tell anyone, don't worry, it's fine.
But that raises the point that there are all these expectations of people working in the AI industry who need to have a certain background. But from my work in training young people into AI, I've seen that you don't have to follow a traditional, conventional academic route necessarily to get into AI. There's a huge opportunity for people with creative skills to contribute a lot. So that's a big part of my job.
Well, that kind of is a good segue into what got you into AI then? What's your kind of background?
So I built my first robot when I was a teenager. It's not something that I'm very proud of because it was a robot that I used it to fetch Snickers from the snack bar. So I would go and fetch chocolates at a certain time every day. But what was really interesting is that it got smarter every day over time. And that led me to thinking how I could create machines that would augment human capability. The school I went to in Rajasthan in India, we had one teacher for 80 students.
Wow.
And that meant that the teachers would usually focus on the top 5 and the bottom 10 students, and everyone else would get pretty much ignored. And that's when I started to think about, oh, what if I could create a robot that would be a personal tutor for everyone? And I hope to see it in my own lifetime. And that's already happening. So a lot of it was driven by my love for chocolates and my desire to create AI tutors.
It's the love of chocolate and love of schooling that's got you here today.
That's right. And now, in addition to my role at Sage, I spend a lot of time, as we were talking about earlier, solving humanitarian problems using AI, especially where humans aren't able to or are not available to support people in need.
So is that where you, from your working with organizations and companies, is that where you see the biggest impact that AI can have?
I do. Frankly, I get a bit irritated when I hear all of this noise about robots are going to steal our jobs. Yes, there are some jobs that will change and adapt in their nature, and yet there's so many difficult problems that need to be solved where we haven't had the resources in the past, where machines will complement technology. I also spent a big chunk of my time these days designing the ethical frameworks that large companies such as Sage, they should be following, and how they need to design systems in a way that it is embedded, those values are embedded in the process of creating technology, And it isn't just an afterthought. Oh, now we've created something that's going to replace all these jobs, so we need to think about it.
Yeah.
You got to think about it in the design process.
Yeah. So the theme of this session is putting ethics into action. So that was going to be my kind of question to you. How do we start getting this into kind of practical action? So it's not just something we're talking about, it's not just something a buzzword, it's actual kind of really happening. And it's embedding it into everyday practices and normal business practices. So if you're an organization and you're thinking, okay, I want to do this and I want to put ethics into action, where do they start? Is it board level? Is it at the coalface, as they say, at the shop floor? How do you actually start making this happen on a day-to-day basis?
So let's start by understanding the problem first. Why there is this need to talk about ethics. And I'm so glad that now we have many forums where this is being talked about.
Even in the last year and a bit, right?
That's right, because 2 years ago when I was talking about equality in algorithms, I would get questioned about, are you fighting for robot rights? And that's not the point. So we need to think about ethics because there are issues at two levels. One is people who are actually creating this technology. Quite often they might not have all the tools available to them or structures available to them to even think about ethics. In technology, as most of us know, teams are not very diverse. And it could be based on gender and races and all sorts of backgrounds. So that issues with the teams themselves, where the developers, the data scientists, and even the data itself, it needs to be diverse. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done right at the ground level.
So to get the kind of foundations right.
Correct. And then you need to design the algorithms such that the algorithms are optimized to do the right thing. Now, to give you an example, I built a bunch of bots and they often get abused by humans, or they get asked out on dates, or Alexa, people often say, what are you wearing? And do you have a boyfriend? Will you go out with me? And this is human nature where I don't know why, but humans have this urge to ask machines out on dates. Now,
that could be a whole other panel. I don't think we've got time to go into that.
Yeah, but a good designer would learn to adopt the algorithms and the design with the human interaction such that machines are not just treated in the way that we are seeing today, but we'll mature it to the level where it's solving problems and the algorithms are optimized not only for success but also the right values. So we can teach machines those values.
Yeah.
But a big chunk of work needs to be done at board level and the executive level. And that's where I'm seeing least action at the moment. And you probably see the same with TechUK in that boards need to take responsibility of governance, not only within their own data systems, their own products, but also their suppliers. And also all the platform partners. If you've built an AI API-driven platform and others are building on it, you got to make sure they're doing it in the right way. And ethics should not just be an afterthought, which is what we're seeing most of at the moment. For instance, last week there were the ethical AI principles from Google, and whilst it's a good step forward, I would argue, why did we have to wait until last week to see that? This should have been designed in the AI development process from the beginning.
But there seems to be, to me, a bit of a sense of urgency for this happening right now. Do you get a sense of that? What do you think might be driving that?
I think we see a lot more information and conversations going on about ethics right now, because there is increasingly a lot more political involvement as well, or legislative fear. Quite honestly, I think that there's a sentiment in the tech industry that if we don't self-regulate, we might be regulated. So there is that element. AI is becoming more available to a wider range of companies than before. So if you're a company such as Sage, where we apply a lot of AI, we don't necessarily always build everything from scratch. It's available to us, whereas previously would be limited to a smaller set of AI R&D type companies. And lastly, I think there's a lot more consumer awareness. And there's a big business driver for that. And we will see, and we're starting to see a lot more consumers demanding ethical, responsible technology from companies. And that would drive buying decisions. If I have two products to choose from. One of them is almost like a fair trade mark for ethical for AI or for tech. I'm more likely to see that.
And we mentioned, obviously you work with a lot of companies, and ethics and putting ethics in action isn't just for large companies, right? I mean, it isn't just for the big boys, it isn't just for the or big girls, it's for all organizations. So how do you start kind of getting everybody in the digital ecosystem thinking about this across, the whole supply chain, as it were, and medium-sized companies and smaller companies as well as the large? How do we start with that?
We need to do, like I talked about, a lot of work needs to be done as a movement, and not only for the data scientists building the models, but also product guys, the marketing people,
the developers, and everybody involved.
Absolutely right. So it needs to be at that level, and also at a senior executive leadership level, whether you're a small business or a large corporate. We all have this responsibility to build products that are not deceptive and are transparent and explainable. Just one more thing I want to add here also is that the rules that apply to humans, in particular industries, they should also apply to algorithms. They should not be above the law. For instance, in a lot of HR applications, we would see algorithms are learning bias. They're learning bias about who to hire in senior leadership roles. If historically a role has primarily been filled by a male candidate, that's what the algorithm is going to learn. And then starts to filter out female candidates. Now, if a human hiring manager did that, we wouldn't allow it. We would just be outraged. But an algorithm has somehow become above the law.
So just thinking about it from a kind of international point of view, and we spoke last week and you were in Australia, and a couple of weeks ago you flew back to do TechUK's new podcast, but you'd just been in Bali. I mean, you travel all the way around the world and have these conversations. So I get a sense that the UK is actually ahead of a lot of countries in the ethics debate and discussion, particularly if I see where we were like 18 months ago. Where do you see countries compared to maybe the UK, or are there countries that you see that are ahead or perhaps even behind in this debate and discussion about ethics and what does it mean in action?
I definitely think UK has taken a lead on it. We have some great thinkers in the country, and
most of them here.
Yes, most of them are here. So that's definitely happening. House of Lords have done fantastic work with the report that TechUK contributed, and also so did I. And I think that's already a great step forward. I do worry about the missing representation from developing countries in the ethical debate. And I've participated in this debate at various levels in the US, in the European Union, European Commission, UK, but I do worry that we don't have enough representation from the developing countries, where quite often technology is designed and then thrown at them. And that needs to change, because
everyone needs to be part of the conversation.
That's absolutely right. And it's a big problem in India, where I grew up there. The country is going through a massive AI revolution right now, huge number of people there, but in the AI workforce, but we're just not seeing the same level of conversation around ethics there. I'm also very worried about the US, in that a lot of the major technology companies are based in the US, and they need to create these ethical codes in a more shareable way as soon as possible. It's not okay if just UK does it, because the consumers are consuming technology from everywhere.
No, absolutely. Technology isn't local anymore, just as data isn't. It's all global, right? So I suppose that's how you bring everybody up to the same level of the conversation. I mean, we had the ITU event over in Geneva a couple of months ago. There's stuff happening. Perhaps do you think that we will see a ramping up in the developing countries of this conversation as we've seen here?
I hope so, and if anyone here can help drive that agenda forward, I would absolutely love to talk to you. I am spending a lot of time in South Africa, other parts of Africa, India, parts of Asia, and I guess that's the part of the exchange we need to develop with those countries, and we need to work on it together. The ITU event was great in Geneva, where the United Nations have taken a lead on creating a neutral platform, and perhaps something will come out of that.
And it's all in a direction of travel of, and we had a panel here earlier on this stage about embedding ethical thinking into the design process, the adoption process, the deployment process, the whole thing. So it's not bolted on at the end, right? So it's baked in, as it were.
Absolutely right. So design what principles you need to, and each organization has its unique set of rules they need to follow based on the problem they're solving. Figure that out and then make sure it's applied everywhere and then checked continuously, because we don't want more examples like Microsoft Tay and the Google photos tagging people as gorillas and all that sort of stuff. This is, we don't have any more, we shouldn't have any more tolerance for that kind of stuff.
And it's not a tick box, well, we've done ethics, now we can move on. It's got to be a living, breathing part of our AI future, really, right?
Yeah, although what gives me a lot of hope is when I teach young kids how to build AI, they, we were talking about the whole David Hansen versus everyone else camp earlier on this stage. What gives me a lot of hope is when young people build AI, they don't think about the doomsday scenarios at all. So I teach a bunch of young kids, teenagers, and 9 out of 10 times, they come up with an AI project that is to further the sustainable development goals or to solve a massive mission-critical problem.
Not to go and get chocolate from the local shop then.
I'm quite disappointed about that. But never, ever, none of those kids have ever created or wanted to create or shown a desire to create a Terminator-style AI. These kids are building things, AI that helps refugees get integrated into communities. They are building AI to help the elderly get support who live alone. They are even building AI to identify and detect fake news. So that gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah. So we've got 1 minute and 20 seconds left. Goes so quickly up here, you wouldn't believe it. So final question that I have for you. So you talk about young people, and we've got lots of students here and lots of young people here. So for them, what advice would you give to someone looking to pursue a career in AI, given where you got to and given your position and your experience? What's the one piece of advice you would give them?
So believe it or not, even if you don't have a degree in computer science, you can still add huge amounts of value to the world of AI. In fact, if I could go back in time, I would study computing and also something creative, because machines can even write their own code, but where the lack is the human elements like empathy and emotional intelligence and design thinking, judgment. And whilst you do create this AI, just make sure that when the robots do take over, at least they're nice.
Well, on that note, Kriti, thank you so much for being with us and for spending the time. Thank you very much.